One of the most important inventions made by American automakers to date is the muscle car. These vintage automobiles have solidified their status as an essential component of American culture during the course of their more than 70-year existence, beginning in 1949 and continuing to the present. Although most auto aficionados consider the 1960s and 1970s to be the heyday of muscle cars, these cars have a richer past than that. They overcame obstacles, and manufacturers are still making outstanding models today. This is the evolution and history of the muscle car. Point 1. Origins and history of the muscle car. The first American muscle vehicle, the Oldsmobile Rocket 88, debuted in 1949, marking the beginning of the muscle car era. With a lightweight body constructed from the Oldsmobile 76 and high compression overhead valve V8, this was the first muscle vehicle ever made. The automobile was the first muscle car ever seen because of its powerful engine and light body, and many other cars quickly followed. Despite the fact that the first muscle vehicle was introduced in 1949, its history and roots date back to the 1920s. One may even argue that the origins of the muscle automobile can be found in the Roaring '20s. In order to outpace law enforcement vehicles, moonshiners and bootleggers during Prohibition, 1920 to 1933, need the quickest automobiles available. These auto thieves gained notoriety for speed-boosting modifications that enhanced their vehicle's ability to handle and carry more stuff. Prohibition had faded by the 1940s, and bootleg moonshine had become immensely profitable. As the illicit alcohol trade decreased, ex-bootleggers developed an interest in fast vehicles. By the early 1950s, they were taking their vehicles to drag strips in competition with one another, rather than trying to evade the authorities. Car manufacturers took notice as these customized vehicles completely outperformed the opposition at street racing circuits. Following the Rocket 88's introduction, several automakers were inspired to create race-ready sports cars by the vehicle. The muscle car business reached its peak in the 1950s, when the Rocket 88's rivals started to appear. Point 2. How did muscle cars get their name? The 1960s were the first years when the phrase muscle car appeared. The term muscle car was initially used by Pontiac to describe their 1964 GTO. It became popular as a description for different tuned-up cars after this use. In an attempt to take a share of the market, Ford and other rivals in the sports car industry quickly sprang on the scene with their own powerful vehicles. General Motors, the company that owned Pontiac, would later produce muscle vehicles under several brand names. Soon after, performance components exclusive to the Pontiac GTO were seen in various versions of the American muscle car from Chevrolet, Oldsmobile, and Buick. But the question is, what does muscle car mean? Although there is a disagreement about the exact definition of a muscle car, most of them adhere to a set of broad standards. American-built, mid-size muscle automobiles have a coupe body style. Moreover, these vehicles frequently include a powerful V8 engine. Their design offers excellent performance at a reasonable cost. Point 3. Muscle car wars. The 1960s saw the beginning of the muscle car wars, which continued until the early 1970s, when the oil crisis and new federal rules altered the way automakers produce high-performance vehicles. The Chevrolet Camaro, Pontiac GTO, Shelby Cobra, Oldsmobile 442, and Buick Grand Sport were a few of the main rivals. To appeal to a broad range of consumers, muscle car makers competed by offering the quickest speeds, strongest engines, and most affordable prices. With the Pontiac GTO and Oldsmobile 442, the muscle car battles began. Upon seeing the triumph of these two automobiles, several additional manufacturers expressed their desire to enter the competition. Since every manufacturer was trying to expand cubic inches, the weapons in this battle were mostly engines. An engine may produce greater horsepower and size in proportion to its cubic inch capacity. The conventional belief held that these manufacturers could achieve quicker acceleration and shorter 0 to 60 mph timings if they could fit a bigger engine in their muscle vehicle. The Plymouth Roadrunner, Dodge Charger, and Shelby Cobra were a few of the most well-known participants in the muscle car wars. The goal of car makers was to outdo each other by fitting even bigger engines. Unfortunately, national circumstances put an end to the rivalry in the early 1970s, much to the dismay of many enthusiasts of muscle cars. The muscle car battles came to an end in 1974 because of new federal rules and the U.S. energy crisis. Manufacturers found it more difficult to deal with than to compete with one another. They were unable to continue meeting federal emissions requirements while producing the big block engines they were accustomed to due to limitations in available technology. The muscle car battles ended as a result. Even if this intense rivalry is no longer there, the amazing array of contemporary muscle cars has the potential to reignite interest. With a lengthy history spanning several decades, muscle vehicles offer drivers amazing peak speeds. Although the mid-1960s to the early 1970s was considered the muscle car industry's golden period, manufacturers continued to produce a large number of performance-oriented vehicles both before and after these times. We've gathered some details on the best muscle vehicles from noteworthy eras to give you an idea of the most well-liked and best-performing models throughout the history of the muscle car. Point 4. The late 1940s and 1950s. Muscle cars gained popularity in the 1950s as other manufacturers attempted to enter the market after the Rocket 88. With models produced by Chrysler, Studebaker, and the American Motors Company, this decade saw numerous noteworthy additions to the category. And these are some of the cars in this era. We have the Rocket 88. A 303 cubic inch 5.0 liter V8 powered the Rocket 88, the original muscle automobile, when it was released in 1949. Just 135 horsepower and 263 pound-foot of torque were produced. In the 1950 NASCAR season, it did, however, have remarkable success, taking home 10 victories from 19 races. The current muscle vehicle still shares the same lightweight body and strong engine configuration. Chrysler C300. Larger and equipped with a more powerful engine than the Rocket 88, Chrysler debuted the C300 in 1955. This vehicle has a 5.4-liter, 331 cubic inch V8 engine. With 300 horsepower, the engine can reach 60 miles per hour in 9.8 seconds. The vehicle could accelerate to 120 miles per hour and manage incredibly well. Point 5. Muscle cars of the 1960s. Auto historians refer to the 1960s as the beginning of the muscle car era's golden period. Several remarkable muscle vehicles were developed during this time, which generally spanned 1964 to 1974. Here are a few of the most well-liked early 1960s vehicles to give you an idea of the muscle automobiles of this golden age. These are some of the cars in this era. And first on the list is the 1964 Pontiac GTO. The golden age of muscle cars is credited to the Pontiac GTO. Bill Collins, Russell Gee, and John DeLorean were the brains behind this car. Their goal was to figure out how to fit the biggest engine into the lightest automobile feasible. The team chose to concentrate on street performance in order to get past General Motors' restriction on factory-sponsored racing. Eventually, the GTO designers created a muscle vehicle with a 6.4-liter, 389 cubic inch V8 engine. With the optional tri-power carburation, owners could increase the car's 325 horsepower to 348 horsepower if they so desired. We also have the 1967 Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake. Despite its sports car-like appearance, the 1967 Shelby Cobra 427 Super Snake was essentially a muscle vehicle. This Shelby model is among the rarest muscle cars ever made, available in a very restricted quantity. It still maintains the title of being the most potent Shelby ever produced because of its incredible power. Famous auto designer and former racer Carroll Shelby intended to create the quickest road vehicle possible during the height of the muscle car wars. Point 6. Muscle cars of the 1970s. The muscle car craze came to a stop in the early 1970s, at least temporarily. The muscle car saw a brief fall as a result of many issues that made it difficult for manufacturers to create the same high-powered, high-compression engines. But before more fees and restrictions were imposed, automakers managed to fit in some really good models. On the list of cars in this era, we have the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS. Chevrolet also developed the Chevelle SS, another muscle vehicle, in addition to the Camaro. The automobile, which was first introduced in 1964, didn't really find its footing until 1970, when it was able to really claim the title of muscle car. Even now, this model is in great demand. With its powerful engine, the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS was able to rival the best muscle vehicles on the market. The 454 cubic inch large block V8 engine that came with it produced 450 horsepower and 500 pound-foot of torque. In addition, it had 5-second 0 to 60 mile per hour time, a 13.1 second quarter mile pace, and a peak speed of 142 miles per hour. The 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible is not left out on this list. One of the rarest muscle vehicles from the 1970s in muscle car history is the 1971 Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible. Plymouth built a mere 13 units, making it very uncommon, both then and now. As a reaction to other muscle car behemoths, like the Mustang and Camaro, this vehicle was derived from preceding Plymouth Barracuda. The 426 cubic inch V8 engine that powered this Plymouth Hemi Cuda convertible produced 425 horsepower and 490 pound-foot of torque. It also had a peak speed of 150 miles per hour and a 5.3 second 0 to 60 mile per hour time. In addition to its strength, it had a stunning body that would turn heads whenever it drove. Point 7. The decline of the muscle car. The market for muscle cars dwindled after 1973. Muscle car manufacturers faced challenges from rising gasoline prices, brought on by the U.S. oil crisis, higher insurance premiums, and the Clean Air Act. For many consumers, muscle vehicles were both expensive and impractical due to their higher price tags. Automakers were placed in an unusual situation by the U.S. energy crisis. Although engineers at Chevrolet, Ford, Buick, Pontiac, and other brands were able to produce sports cars more quickly than ever before, due to advancements in automotive technology, the American government's rules and regulations made it difficult to move high-performance models out of dealerships. This also affected consumers' willingness to spend money. Let's have your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for staying through till the end. Hit the subscribe button and don't forget to watch our previous videos.